Hello and welcome to week 10, I believe. A couple things before I get started with this one exercise. Please remember you have two discussions. One is due tonight, that's the Project 2 critiques, and the second one, the infographics, you have until next week. But make sure you critique all the projects in the Project 2 discussion, because I find that useful, and I hope that as students you find that useful reading the comments for your projects. So just make sure you get those done. What we're going to be doing today really has to do with where Project 3 is headed. I'm going to give a quick little blurb on that before we head into the exercise here. But this project is about choice. It's about the viewer being able to choose where it is that they want to go and then what information is sort of presented once we go that route. Okay. Everything we've done up to this point is point A to point B, meaning we play a movie, it starts over again. We rarely, as a viewer or a creator, have had a chance to make the movie stop, and in this case, what we're going to be doing is offering a choice. Okay. Hopefully you've started to research your topic, gotten information in terms of what's going to be presented. We worked with text quite a bit in the last project, so text is likely going to play a role again, whether it be simple symbols or in this case probably buttons that are going to allow us to, again, present information and understand how this information is to be viewed. So without further ado, we're going to be doing one exercise here, and it's called creating an interactive button. We have done we have done two symbols up to this point. We have done movie clips, think about the bird flying in the air, and we've done graphics. Graphics are just straight graphics. We're going to be using green ball and red ball graphics over here today. So those should be fairly straightforward. The one symbol we haven't used yet is what's called a button. A button is fundamentally different than any other any other symbol in Flash because it allows us to add interactivity to our movie. Okay, so I open Flash. I create a new document that's 800 by 600. If you want to modify your document, you can always go to Modify, type in that 800 by 600. I changed the background color just to do something different to make this movie a little bit bigger. Okay, now what it says here on step 6 is create 3 different scenes, and we're going to name one scene home, we're going to name another scene red ball, and we're going to name a third scene green ball. Okay, we want to separate these things out into scenes. Hopefully you've been using scenes to organize your movie, and scenes are going to allow us to create and organize the interactivity. So what I'm going to do, I have my scenes window over here. If you don't have your scene, you can go to Window, Scene, and it'll look something like this. I have scene 1. I'm going to add another scene and another scene. I'm going to name by double clicking on my scene 1. I'm going to call this one home. Okay, this is all step 6. And I'm going to name this red ball. It's very important that we spell these things correctly in here because we're going to be referring to these scenes in code or in the code for the buttons, and it's going to be important that we match those up. So spell them correctly right off the bat. Now, step 7 says create a simple motion tween over 60 frames in the red ball scene of a red ball graphic moving across the stage. Step 8 is the same thing. Create a simple motion tween over 60 frames with the green ball. In the green ball scene with the green ball graphic moving across the stage. So I'm going to quickly do that. I'm going to go to my red ball scene. Okay. And I'm going to go to my library. I already made these red ball and green ball graphics. So I'm going to simply put red ball down here, 60 frames. Create the motion tween, grab it, and pull it across. Okay, these are just going to be sort of indications that we have done our actions correctly and that we're sort of basically going to the right place. Okay, I'm going to put the green ball down, 60 frames, create my motion tween. All right. So we have 3 different scenes. We have home, which is blank. We have red ball that has a red ball tween on it. And then we have a green ball that has a green ball tween on it. Okay, pretty straightforward. It says these two scenes will serve as evidence that our buttons from home are working correctly, and that's going to definitely be the case. Now we're going to go to our home scene, and this is the beginning of actions. Before I sort of head into actions, I want to talk about the different types of actions. This first action we're going to be doing, which is called a stop, is what is considered a frame action. A frame action is an action that happens in the timeline, meaning that the playhead comes to that action and sort of sees it and reads it. One of the most basic things that perhaps you've wanted to do with your movies but haven't been able to do thus far is stop your movie. So we're going to be doing the most simple action there is, and it's going to be called basically a stop action. Okay, so it says go to the home scene and then go to the window actions. Okay, we get this thing up here, and it says in the actions window we have to type this stop. It doesn't have quotes in it, so now you'll see that as I type things, often when they turn blue, and in another case it's going to turn green, it indicates that that action is typed correctly. As you move through these actions, you might start to get used to what they look like, changing colors in order to indicate that they are being done correctly. You'll see that it's my stop is sort of black there as I type the correct bit of code. So this is stop with sort of this parenthesis. Whoops. That means stop. Okay, it's going to stop our playhead. I'm going to close this out. Now, step 12, or it says this will add a small a. You'll see a tiny little a up in your blank keyframe here, and I'm going to name this layer the stop action. Okay, so I want to keep things organized there. Okay, now just to sort of understand how this is working, what's going to happen is the playhead's going to come in and it's going to stop. Okay. That is a good thing. That is what we want. We want the playhead to stop and wait for, and we don't have the buttons here yet, but wait for the viewer to do something. Okay, and this is where we're going to create two buttons that allow your movie to do something. Okay, so let's move on to creating these buttons. Step 13 says choose insert new symbol. So I'm going to insert a new symbol. I'm going to name this symbol go to green ball button. And I need to make sure in the drop-down menu that it is a button. Okay, step 15 there. This will not work if it is not a button. Okay, so I'm going to click OK. Now it says choose the text tool and draw a box. We're going to choose the text tool. In a minute I'm going to explain what's going on up here. And it says type go to green ball. Oh, I have green there. Go to, I have a nice big chunky font there. Now, before I head into anything else, I want to sort of discuss what's going on up here. We have we don't have a very typical timeline up here. A graphic and a movie clip would just have sort of a generic timeline that goes, 100 frames, 200 frames, whatever. This has 4 different what's called states. Okay, the first state is what's called an up state. The up state is just your button without any interaction happening to it at the time. Okay, the over state is going to be what happens to your button when you mouse over it. Okay. The down state is going to be what's happening to your button when you push down on your mouse. And the hit state indicates where does this action sort of take place. Is it sort of, and I'm sort of drawing here, is it really big? Does all this sort of overstate stuff happen really big, or does it happen quite small? It's going to default to basically the size of your text on that hit state or the text box, and that's a good thing. Okay, think of the overstate like sort of when you hover over a link on a website and it does something, generally just sort of changes colors or it might underline. That is the overstate. Okay, now It says step 18, insert keyframes in each of the over down hit states in the layer in the layer 1 timeline. Okay, so I'm going to insert a keyframe, and all this is going to do is basically copy this stuff over. Okay. Now, step 19 is where we're going to alter our button to sort of add some sort of interactive feature to it. So I'm going to select the text. I got to make sure I'm in the over state here, and I'm just going to choose maybe a different color green. Okay. So now we can sort of see here. There's moving my playhead across. There's my over state, etc. Okay. Now. Step 20, it says repeat steps 13 through 19, but this time basically just say go to the red ball button. Okay. I only have a few more minutes left in this video, and we have still have a bit to do. So I'm going to stop the video, and we're going to pick this up on part 2 of buttons. Please note that I will, and I'll probably say it at the beginning, that I will have done my red ball button once we sort of head into that. So stay tuned for part 2.